Not only witnessed it firsthand, Brian, but like most people now pulled out his cell phone and started to record it. They heard over 100 gunshots exchanged back and forth. It took 18.5 inches to shut down the city of Battle Creek today.
24-hour News 8's Casey Jones is live in Saugatuck right now. Casey, what are you seeing out there?
Snow. We're seeing snow everywhere. Temperature and turnover. The Lions will be battling much more than just the Green Bay Packers tomorrow. I'm Casey Jones live at Lambeau. Coming up, we take a closer look at the role both of those two will play. Now, Mark Dantonio was diplomatic earlier in the week in his press conference. Today in the post-game press conference, the gloves came off. Obviously, a Harbaugh name comes to the top. Jim or John, it's got to be at the top of the wish list. This is a serious consideration, though, for you. You've been in talks with Magic Johnson, is that correct? They're making a little bit of a push before the actual push of this race, which will come before those hills. The highest elevation here on the Riverbank Run, 25K, right around mile 9.5 or so. Helmet-to-helmet contact is inevitable in football, but unlike the pros, where sometimes there's more doctors than athletes on the sidelines, in high school, a helmet is your best friend. New research says that some helmets are actually safer than others. So, how safe are your children's helmets? To a promise fulfilled that was made by Coach Mark Dantonio at the beginning of the season that these guys, these players, would be the ones. The Big Ten tournament trophy just being locked up. We're going to jump in on some of the sound right now. Denzel Valentine talking to the media after the game.
You know, they prepare me to...
Syracuse looked like a team that started the year 25-0 in Western Michigan. They looked like a team that hadn't been on this grandest stage in a decade. They think timing was a kind of a factor in this, that they called early on in the morning and targeted older couples that still have landline phones. Yeah. Lieutenant Michael Kasher says he'll continue to believe that Jessica Herringa is alive until he's given a reason to think otherwise, and he'll continue to search until he finds her. But Kasher and the case, now 2 years later, are right here where it all started, April 26, 2013, square one. Now, of course, from Lambeau, I can't leave you with that negative news, Larry. So I'll leave you with this. The Lions have won one playoff game since 1957, of course, that in 1991, and it came against the Dallas Cowboys. He said there was a moment after that wreck where he kind of felt himself to make sure he was okay. You see in those pictures, the taillights of that truck were just inches from where his face would have been. Yeah. Could be one of the greatest battles in the state. It's just a shame that one of these schools will see their season come to an end so early in week one of the postseason. Just heard from Prince Fielder. We asked him, how long do you kind of let this sink in, and when can you finally reflect and put this season into perspective? He said, well, he's waking up at 8 o'clock this morning to drive his kids to school. So when his eyes are burning with the morning sun, that's when you kind of move on and forget.
Sunday marks 2 years since Jessica Herringa vanished from the Norton Shores gas station where she worked. New at 6 o'clock tonight, we are hearing for the first time accounts from the lead detective in the case about the dead ends in the more than 2,000 tips that have poured in. 24-hour News 8's Casey Jones is live at the site where Herringa was last seen. Casey?
Yeah, Sue, in that stack of over 2,000 tips, those detectives were led to a Kalamazoo man, a serious person of interest in Herringa's disappearance. Well, now he's dead, and those same detectives are left wondering if they'll ever catch a break in this 2-year-old case.
There was a person that was a suspect that was involved in a rape case last year in Kalamazoo, and he still looks pretty good, but he unfortunately was shot and killed by the police.
A suicide by police, from what we could uncover. Lieutenant Michael Kasher would only say the suspect was killed in February 2014 by Kalamazoo officers. Our records show that was 40-year-old Brad Allen Mason, who told his girlfriend when police showed up at his house, quote, they were going to have to kill me, end quote.
Could be considered still a suspect, but he's now deceased, so I can't.
How do you move forward with that?
I don't know. Hopefully we were hoping that somebody else knows the information, that maybe he said something to or came up with something that they would contact us. That's what we're hoping for.
Hope is about all Lieutenant Kasher has left. He's lost the excitement that comes with new leads.
And I don't mean it in a negative, you just don't get excited. You just learn, okay, let's do what we're supposed to do. Let's not get our emotions, because right now we're still at step one.
They've been past step one many times. They just always end up back at it. An ex-wife in Detroit told Kasher she was sure her husband had done it because she found bloody clothes and GPS coordinates that put him in the area at the time of Herringa's disappearance.
The blood comes back as non-human, We found out that he did take a trip over here to Muskegon because he's got a buddy here that they went fishing.
Another placed a convicted kidnapper near the gas station the night Haringa vanished. The people who tipped off Kasher said the possible suspect didn't show up for work that night either.
His wife says, "You're not going in tonight." So he's told them no. They called him and he said, "No, I can't come in." And that was verified by 3 people. So it looks good, starts out looking good, man, this could fit, and boom, it ends.
The list goes on and on of stale tips, piled and filed to the white pages that fill Kasher's office, put away, but they're always on his mind, every moment, as each piece of new information is still looked at.
Until Jessica's back, until we have the suspect or suspects in custody, everybody's still a suspect.
Now tomorrow, Unsolved Mysteries will be posting a video about this case to their website. We've got a link to that on woodtv.com. And there's also still a $25,000 reward for any information that leads to solving this case. But Lieutenant Kasher wants to stress that's for new, credible information, not just for theories that you think of may have what happened. They've got plenty of those. Live in Norton Shores, Casey Jones, 24-Hour News 8.
Winter weather resulted in some very hazardous road conditions all over West Michigan today. By far the biggest mess in Muskegon County, where some 40 cars and 4 semis got caught up in a wreck. 24-Hour News 8's Casey Jones is live tracking road conditions for us tonight. And Casey also had a chance to sit down with one of those drivers caught up in that pileup today.
Yeah, Brian, a lot of thankful people tonight. No one was seriously injured in that wreck. Now, right now we're along US 131 in downtown Grand Rapids. The snow lightly falling, the wind not as strong as it was earlier when I was out on the lakeshore today, and the highway itself not covered in snow. There's actually, you can see the lanes, the track, and the road underneath it, though there is that sheen over the road, so you do know that that's very, very slick. Now, it was a different story this afternoon on US 31. Near Whitehall. We all know the feeling. You come up to a whiteout condition, you grip the wheel just a little bit tighter, and you hope you can get through it. Well, tonight, one West Michigan man is just thankful to be alive.
My God, that's a semi, and it's jackknife, and I'm heading right for it.
Adam Breet had just seconds to think.
And I noticed the cab, and I'm like, my God, that's a semi truck. What am I going to do? I saw a ditch, I saw trees.
The ice on the road didn't allow him to do anything.
I ducked down and then bam, I just heard the smashing of the car.
Breet was the first car in a 40-car pileup that shut down a portion of US 31 South near Whitehall.
God, the baby seat in the back. I'm like, thank God that the kids weren't in there because that was crushed.
He says had he not ducked, the edge of the semi would have taken his head off.
Not a scratch. Isn't that amazing?
His first thought were his kids and his wife, until screams forced him from his car.
Someone came running around from the back end of the semi that had jackknife and started screaming, "Get into the woods, get into the woods," because cars behind us.
Cops said in all about 40 cars and 4 semis were involved in the wreck, caused by a combination of speed and whiteout conditions. And with no serious injuries, it's one white-knuckle driver who's happy to be alive.
I thought about my kids and my family. I mean, that's your first thought when you're a dad. You know, it's God, it's scary, and that, you know, I had an angel watching over me. Talk about miracles. That's I feel a miracle.
That stretch of highway was closed down for nearly 2 hours as police worked to clean up that mess. But again, no life-threatening injuries in that 40-car pileup. A lot of thankful families tonight, but Adam Breet especially hugging his loved ones a little harder tonight. Live in Grand Rapids, Casey Jones, 24-Hour News 8.
Casey, absolutely heart-stopping. I mean, those images from inside that car, divine intervention, absolutely. How did he make it out?
He said there was a moment after that wreck where he kind of felt himself to make sure he was okay. You see in those pictures, the taillights of that truck were just inches from where his face would have been.
Yeah.
Very fortunate, very lucky he made it out safe. And like he said, not a scratch on him.
Unbelievable. Casey Jones, thank you. Live tonight.
That was a moment that fans and coaches will remember for a very long time as these young athletes turned aside wins and losses to give a teammate of theirs the thrill of a lifetime. It happened at a track meet Tuesday between Greenville and Forest Hills Northern. Now, there are 4 runners on that Forest Hills Northern middle school track team, ages 13, 14, and 15. But what they did was more mature than their age and more compelling than any victory. If life is a marathon and not a sprint, then the Forest Hills Northern track team is right on pace. Ironically, though, it's their sprinters giving lessons on this marathon of life.
He's a fun kid. He's full of energy. He's all over the place. I mean, he's a big part of the team.
From first glance, you notice the difference in Nathan Van Dyken. That fun, full of energy kid. His walker, a symbol of the cerebral palsy he was born with 14 years ago at just 1 pound, 10 ounces.
I'm ready to run.
But as a member of the Huskies track team, that walker is hardly visible. At a Tuesday night track meet in Greenville, those 3 Husky runners you just saw, Noah Jacobs, Victor Santillan, and Benjamin Hood, ran with Van Dyken from start to finish. The 7th grade Van Dyken typically runs his 70-meter heat alone, but this race, with his teammates by his side, he ran against them, winning his first ever race.
And I got first prize yesterday.
He was just yelling with joy, and we were just like all kind of like together.
It made me feel happy that, you know, somebody can have fun and win.
To the surprise of his parents and even his coaches, the 4 runners brought the fans to their feet and the lumps to the throat. Do you feel like when you won yesterday, all your hard work?
Yes, I did.
Do you feel like all your hard work finally paid off? All your practicing?
Yeah.
Van Dyken's left his mark on his team this season, and in terms of life lessons, these young Northern Huskies are well prepared as they continue towards their finish.
I mean, if you see someone different, just look at them and say, well, yeah, they're a part of who we are. They're the same person.
We want people to be inspired, because if you have a disability of any kind, it doesn't mean that you can't do something.
People should all be treated the same, and if you have a disability, you should push yourself and tell yourself you can do it.
Nathan was very curious, very confident, not shy in front of the camera. In fact, he loved the camera, and he even said he's caught the victory bug.
Oh, yeah?
He's looking ahead. He wants to win the conference championship race. He's got the date May 18th at Kenowa Hills.
Oh, wow.
He's set on it.
I love that confidence,
Yeah.
and I love his teammates. Great story. Great story.